The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and presenters. They do not represent the opinions or views of the Equita Group, Equita Final Expense Services, or its affiliates.
Hello, everybody. Appreciate you jumping on and joining us again. Chase Youre here with another episode of EFES In the Trenches, and I'm excited today. We've got a special guest joining us. We always try and have a special guest here, but this one I'm super excited about as we kind of change format a little bit, trying to rope in some of our buddies from all around the United States in here to talk shop a little bit. We have none other than Mr. Cole McCoy on with us. Cole, if you don't know Cole, he's 200,000 plus every year as a personal producer, also out there growing and building an insurance agency. What's going on, my man?
What is up, man? I'm a little hot after that NFL draft last night. I'm glad my Browns weren't drafting because I'd probably throw my remote through the TV. But other than that, I'm hanging in there, man. I had a good time watching teams absolutely crap the bed, but we won't get into that too much.
I'm actually just kind of glad my Cowboys didn't have a pick. I probably would have been disappointed, even though we've been doing all right in the last couple of years. But it was a lot of fun to watch that. It was definitely fun to pay attention to see some of how the competitors definitely kind of fell and didn't. They helped us all, I guess, is the best way of phrasing it.
Those Giants are a train wreck in slow motion, brother. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm excited about having you on today. We've had you on before. No surprise. No, not even out of the norm. We're going to be doing this much, much more often. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about just kind of having some conversations over the past few weeks, talking about shop, talking about what's going on in the industry. And one of the things we love to do on this podcast is, put some content out there for everybody that can help them, get better at what they do. And we've been really seeing some big growth take place with your group, with you personally, as well as us as an organization. And one of the big things that we've had come across our way and thrown our way lately is, new producers looking for a change, looking for a home, looking to get started. And today we want to talk about just a little bit about kind of jumping all in, going all in. And you've got a great insight on, that phrase of burning your ship. So we'll kick it off with just kind of going over, why it's important to jump all in, man.
Yeah, man. I was talking to one of my guys yesterday who super good guy and just wants to do the right thing for his family, and he's trying to navigate this whole deal. And he was just telling me about, sometimes, in my job it's very flexible, and what I realized was I can fit in things here, here and there in between, instead of going home and playing Xbox for a few hours, waiting for the next part of my job. I could be out running appointments and just doing whatever I have to make it work. And I was like, yeah, man, I just straight up told him, and if he's listening, he'll probably laugh at me. But I just said, look, man, it's better for you to take a baseball bat to your Xbox and for your business and your dreams to burn, burn in hell, as some would say. And that was an eye-opening moment, because I was like, man, there's so many good people and people that could kill it in this business that just kind of reserve a little bit of themselves. They hold back just a little bit. They don't give everything they have into this. And they're a couple bad days from being done in this business. And so that's, I think, is one of the most important things. It's not a sexy thing to talk about. We see all these videos and on Facebook, and people posting pictures with their Lamborghinis and all that stuff. But what they don't tell you is how hard they had to work to get there. And you just can't get to that level of success without going 110% all in. And so that's something that I'm super passionate about. I don't want to talk about the sexy side of the business where you can be a millionaire down the road. I want to talk about the hard stuff, what it takes to get there. And if you want to embrace that, I think you can make a ton of money in this business. But
it's a great topic to talk about, because it's probably the most honest and most just to the point part of our business that does not get talked about enough. And you mentioned the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis parked out front and all that stuff. how often do we get a chance to talk to an agent that worked with, and I'm not going to name any names, but worked with a company where the manager driving the Maserati, the Ferrari, just got the new Lotus or whatever, and he's showing it off, sending pictures out. We literally just had this happen day before yesterday. We had a guy come over from a company that was on a very low contract, and he's a great guy. I know you've seen him in the chat already. You probably don't know who he is just yet, but his agency manager, his upline, was sending pictures to him like, "Hey, man, check this out. I just got this." And this guy's over here starving. He doesn't have enough leads. He doesn't have enough people to see. And that's the kind of stuff that just wears me out. But for us to be on, kind of go over with your topic that you just touched on is, kind of being all in. If you have any type of apathy, you're just not going to be able to go all in. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out in this business. And apathy is one of the biggest killers. And we see it all the time. It can't be a blasé, I don't really, whatever kind of approach to the business. It's got to be your obsession. It's got to be your passion. It's got to be your hobby. And when you hit that point where you're starting to see success, you don't let off. You really go pedal to the metal. You've always been fantastic. In the time that I've known you, you've always been somebody that kept your eye on the prize. You were willing to do the things, the sacrifices. That's a word that's going to come up when it comes to being serious about your business, sacrifice. You've always been somebody that was like, I don't want to just talk about it. I want to be about it. I mean, the trip that you made to Minnesota with Peter and the crew, that's case in point. But when it comes to going all in, we see, and you can testify to this, we see every day, man, people that have the skill set, they've got the talent, they just won't commit. They won't commit to buying leads every week. They won't commit to going through the training that we've set up. There's so many things that if you just commit and follow the process, like Nick Saban always talks about, you're going to come out the other end better than you were when you went in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've shared my story a few times on here, Chase, with hanging out with you for a few minutes here and there. But for those who haven't heard it, I mean, when I got into final expense, I had a little bit of experience in the insurance industry, and I had some good training in the past, and I just kind of got to the next level up as far as commissions go and being an independent broker. And so I saw the opportunity and said, man, there is so much money to be made here. And I said, you know what? Either I'm going to kill it and I'm going to make a ton of money, or I'm going to go work at a cell phone store. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I've shared this story a lot, but I took out a $3,000 loan to buy leads. And I was down to my last day in the field where I hadn't made any money yet on those leads, and I couldn't purchase the next week's worth. I mean, I was out of money. And I wrote $6,000 in a day and a half, and I haven't looked back. And that story is so powerful because I talked to so many people that are like, look, man, I just, I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger on leads. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? And I say, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a plan B per se, but kill that in the back of your mind like there is no other option. That plan B is only if you completely fail and you have no other way out. I think for me personally, that's the only way that this business works. There are unicorns out there that were able to make this work after hours when they got off of work at 5 or 6, go and ran a couple of appointments. We have a guy with us right now that's done that, but he's the exception to the rule. And the problem is we like to take the exceptions and make excuses as to why we're not burning our ships and saying, I'm not leaving myself with a way out. Either I'm going to thrive and I'm going to make it, or I'm going to fail and I'll figure something else out. That's entrepreneurship. That's America, baby. Like, let's go. If you want to put your money where your mouth is and you want to be successful, don't give yourself a way out. Say, here it is. I'm giving it everything I have. I'm putting all my money on the line, and it's either going to work or it's not. But at the end of the day, if I fail in that scenario, I still have peace within me because I know that I gave it every single ounce of energy I had to make it work. And I think, not to be rah-rah or motivational because, again, I think it's very important to have a good upline. I think it's very important to have solid leads and training. I think it's important to have a system and camaraderie where you can plug into, when you're feeling down, have someone come and sympathize and support you. When you're up and had a good day, have someone you can call to celebrate with you. All that stuff is important. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to what's between your ears and what's beating in your chest. And man, I think there are so many people that have what it takes that just let fear consume them, and they never give themselves a realistic opportunity to make it in this business.
Well,
So
and you're spot on, dude. You have to be able, if you're gonna bet on somebody, and particularly in this business, you better be willing to bet on yourself. And that was something that I found powerful, and it's an attribute that you find within a top producer. It's there. It doesn't mean that you're reckless. It doesn't mean that you just throw all of your money away, but you're willing to take a leap of faith and you're willing to bet on yourself like you did. I mean, that your story is powerful, and I can listen to your story 100 times more just because it's, number one, it's factual, it's true, it's real. In a world where a lot of stuff is just fluff and BS, your story's powerful, and I think it's helped a lot of people here at EFES when you've told it and shared with them how you got started, what, kind of where you were back up against the wall. You believed in yourself and you said, look, I know I can do this. I need to do it. And you bet on yourself. You went out there and you did it. And that right there is half the battle with most of the people that don't work out in this business, is that, well, let me buy a set of leads and let's see if this works. That's not trusting the numbers. That's not running the numbers. At the end of the day, you're toe dipping. Let me just see if this is going to be okay. You got to go all in on it. And so often those that go all in, those are the ones that they come out the other end just better for it, and they succeed more often than not. But it's one of those things, once again, I'll be redundant. This will be the statement I make really for the day. Just bet on yourself. If you're going to bet on anything, bet on yourself and just rock and roll with it. And that's something that I don't think can be talked about enough, man, because we just live in a toe dipper, apathetic world, and it wears me out sometimes seeing it.
yeah, man, you're absolutely right. I think there's so much of that. And I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You should know what you're getting into if you're getting into this business. You're not guaranteed anything. This is a commission business. You're not coming in making $10 or $15 or $20 an hour. If you fail, that's what you're getting, And I personally would never, ever in a million years take a job like that ever again in my life, because I know what being an entrepreneur means. At least I pretend to, right? But I know what it's like to say, you know what, I can go out and make whatever number I want today. It's possible. I'm going to sit here with a blank check. It could be $1,000. It could be $6,000. Whatever it is, you never know what you're going to run into, and you never know until you just go all in and do it. I mean, there are so many people that desperately need what we have. I mean, that's a whole other side of this. It's not like you're getting one over on people. These are folks who need what we have desperately, whether it's the final expense, whether it's the Medicare. Sometimes you're going to run into annuities. You're going to run into larger size policies where somebody has some money sitting around that they were just letting sit in a bank account. They didn't want to spend it. They just wanted to allocate that for when they died to their kids. Well, Mr. Jones, let's turn that 50 grand into 80, right? That's a nice commission for you, but more importantly, it's a good deal for the client. And so it's not like we're asking you to sell an overpriced product or do something that puts a bunch of money in our pockets because you're going to work. We're giving you a bulk of the commission, and you guys have an opportunity to go and grind and do a solid service for these people. So that's the other side of it too. You can actually feel good about what you're doing when you grind. You're paying yourself, but you're also doing a massive service for these people who probably would not have done something had you not showed up to their house, and maybe sometimes even pushed them a little bit to make a decision. I mean, they're just not going to do it unless we guide them through that process of signing on the line and getting life insurance to protect their family. It's just what it is. And so it's not sexy. It's not, final expense can be looked down on by certain aspects of the insurance industry. But I tell you what, there are more people who need final expense and need all this other stuff that's being sold out there. 100%.
Absolutely, and I mean, our business is looked down on. I mean, compared to the other markets, oh, you don't sell annuities? No, we do it all, but our specialty is final expense, working with seniors. And you just said it, man. I mean, you hit it right on the head. We have a luxury of being in a business where we get to help people make a great living, and that's awesome. That's different than going out and doing something that's a little bit more mundane. A little bit, and you work in the job side of it. You get to go help people and make a great living. That's different. I want to talk about something for a lot of our listeners that are in podcast land, Cole. We have a lot of people that contact us, and it's been more and more recently that have been talking to us more and more about, hey, look, I found your podcast, and I'm just kind of stuck doing this right now. I don't have the leads. I don't have the mentorship. One thing that's come up a lot lately is the culture. A lot of people don't have that community. You see it every day. We've got a fantastic community put together here at EFES. I think that's a big part of the day-to-day as well, because typically an insurance agent's best friend is an empty passenger seat. It can get a little lonely out there. We've got a great setup for somebody to be able to plug in and just be a part of something. And it's not rah-rah. It's, hey, I'm doing this out there just like you're doing it. I always find that to be a difference maker.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's one thing I think is super important. We were not created to do this life alone. We were not created to do business alone. I think the lone wolf oftentimes feels isolated and leads to a lot of other things. If you're working with us, if you're working with somebody else, I think it's so important that you have a culture that's there to support you. Obviously, to be honest with you when you're messing up and saying, look, I think you can do this better, but also to celebrate you and your wins and to make you feel like you're part of something greater than yourself. And if that's something that you're lacking, I would encourage you to find that ASAP. I think, I mean, I'm sure the numbers would support it. I don't have statistics in front of me, but I bet it's staggering the amount of production or the amount of income somebody makes that's involved with the community in some capacity versus someone who's kind of a lone ranger. I bet it's staggering. And so I just think personally, I know I could never do this business alone. I feel lonely sometimes as it is just being in my own little office in little old Mansfield, Ohio. But I know I have dozens of people I can reach out to at a moment's notice to say, hey, I'm struggling. I need some help. I can remember when I was up in Minnesota, Chase, and I won't get into the details of the situation, but I was having a pretty rough day. And I just said, Chase, this is what happened. Man, I just need something encouraging. And you were right there. You spent a few minutes with me on the phone, and that propelled me to the next couple weeks. And sometimes that's what we need, but unfortunately, not everybody in the industry has that luxury. And so, guys, if you're listening to this and you feel like you're all alone, please reach out to somebody that's going to be there to help you. It's going to help you make more money, and it's going to be better for your mental space. You're going to be more effective. You're going to serve your clients better. Most importantly, you're going to serve your clients better, and you're part of something bigger than yourself. So I can't stress that enough, Chase. I mean,
well, and I want to take it a little bit further, and I don't want to make it uncomfortable for our listeners. I know it won't be for you and I, but also one of the things that goes along with having that mentor, you said it a moment ago, is having somebody that'll shoot you straight. I think part of shooting you straight, and I'm going to cover this kind of twofold here. First and foremost is when we're having one of those whiny days, we all have those days where we just need to kind of be smacked a little bit, like, whoa, hey, just shut up, let's go. This is the focus. You're complaining about things that are not in your control. Just focus, recalibrate, and let's get it. We need that person, and we all have that person here, whether it's one particular individual or a multitude of different people. But you need that person that can help recalibrate you, get you back on track. That's going to tell you, I'm like my dad always said, your dad's a coach too, so you know about this. It's like when I needed to be knocked down by a coach, I would get knocked down. But a great coach will be the first one there to pick you up. And a good mentor is the same way. So if you're out there right now and you don't have that mentor, you just have somebody that's, sucking up that override. You really can't get in touch with them. You got about 36 other layers of hoops to jump through to get a hold of that person. That's a problem, first and foremost. But also at the same time, you need to be able to have an open line of communication with that person to where you can talk about compensation. And I don't want to open up a can of worms that make it weird for somebody out there, but we're very transparent with compensation. One of the things that cuts me deep still to this day in this business, almost 13 years going in it, is when I see somebody out there doing it and they have no idea of the other side of the fence. They've got the blinders on. They don't know that. I don't want to say that they're being taken advantage of, but it's just there is an opportunity if someone's going to give you a fair shake out there and pay you what you're worth. That's something we see all the time, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a dime a dozen. You looked on LinkedIn or Facebook, these are usually the people with the Lamborghinis, but they have 300 people under them and most of them aren't making a whole lot of money. Now, I'm not saying that those people didn't work hard to get where they're at. I mean, they've figured something out. I'd rather share the wealth with my agents. And then, if I have a lot of successful people, that's, I think, where now it's okay to have that. But, there are so many organizations that before you even get in, recruit your friends and family and cousin and find any person on social media and promise them a dream of becoming a millionaire. And, it's the 1% that are becoming millionaires. So technically that opportunity is still there, but it's just, you're starting people on a 35, 40, 50% contract. And again, I don't want to bust anybody's balls here, Chase, but, dude, that's what's happening in the industry and it's sad. And I know that's kind of my heritage. I got great training for that 40%, but I couldn't survive on it, man. And so, again, I mean, this is technically an EFES podcast and, I don't want to say EFES, but that's something that you're going to get transparency, whether that's with us or somebody else. Just know what you're getting into. Know that there are good contracts available for you. Know that you don't have to sacrifice getting good training and support for those contracts. No, you don't have to sacrifice getting solid leads for that. And that is so important because I would personally want to know now if I were going all in with somebody that they were going all in with me too. That's the other side of the coin.
Absolutely.
And I think, honestly, I understand the fear. I understand the paralysis by analysis. I understand the crippling terror that happens that, babe, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to go sell insurance. I understand that. And that's why we sympathize. We're not being critical because we think you're a bad person or it's a character issue. I get it 100%. But I've also lived it where I was able to find a system that worked, that I could go all in with somebody who was willing to go all in with me. And I'll tell you what, that completely changed my business. It changed the landscape of my family life. My wife is quitting her job. It changed the landscape of even my family a couple generations down the line. I believe that it's this opportunity that will allow my family to have college paid for, and something that, I know my parents obviously would want that for me and just never were able to provide. My dad's had a lot of health issues and that's a whole story. We all have something we're coming from and what we want to improve on, Chase. And so that's kind of my heart for any of y'all that are listening is go all in with somebody who's willing to go all in with you.
Yeah, and if you have a setup right now where it's not following the path of a meritocracy, and I mean a true meritocracy where you are judged, you are compensated, and you are taken care of based off of your results, your work, not superficial qualities, not because you're buddy with the guy that started the joint, then you're in the wrong place. You need to find somewhere where you're able to say, okay, look, because this whole business is predicated on you took care of Mrs. Jones. You did a great job. You've developed a client for life. You're compensated accordingly. It should be that way. It should not be the opposite, which is, just because you're not drinking the Kool-Aid or you're not vibing, and you wake up one day, it's just not work. It shouldn't be that way. It should be based off you eat what you kill. and you should be able to go out there and bust your hump and be compensated the way you should be. And I know my dad always joked with me growing up, like, we all think we're worth more than what we are. That wasn't meant to be a degrading comment to say like, hey, you're a confidence killer. He always instilled confidence, but it's one of those things where it's like also have a realistic perspective. Shoot for the stars, but at the same time, make sure that you're accurate in your depiction with your value.
Self-awareness and humility are some of the most important things that you could ever learn, especially in the business realm, for sure.
Yeah, and so that when it comes to this particular area, I'll say it, the 50, 60, 70, those ranges of compensation are just something that you shouldn't be taking place. You need to have somebody that can mentor you. You're going to obviously pay for the training in some form or fashion, but it beats me, man. I talked to a guy this week, and I said it a minute ago. He is such a nice guy. He's a young guy. He's in his early 30s, and he's been a top 10 agent at a company. And this guy has been getting 50%. And I'm just like, well, okay, well, maybe you're getting free leads. Maybe you're getting this. Maybe. No, he wasn't getting any of that. And also on top of that, he had an estranged upline. He wasn't even a mentor. He was just an upline. And he didn't really know him, didn't really work with him. And he was left to his own. And that's the kind of stuff that just breaks my heart. And so if you're somebody out there right now and you hear the podcast and that's something that hits you here, which, man, that kind of sounds like me. I don't really have the training. I really don't have the mentoring, or I don't have the leads. Man, we just love to have a conversation with you. And this podcast isn't meant to be a recruiting platform by any means. This content goes to our producers, both new and current. But it is also a safe haven for you to say, hey, look, there is another opportunity out there that is fair. It is legit. And at the end of the day, when you talk to our people, you're going to see that. When you talk to somebody like Cole, or you talk to a Ben Bowman, or you talk to a Josh Jensen or a Peter Walker, whoever, when you talk to some of our leadership, that's going to ring true. You'll see that. So going back to our point of making sure that, we're really jumping all in and following that message that is a really cool story of just burning the ships. You're pulling up on shore. You're not looking about, well, what happens if they storm us and we got to go and we got to jump back in? No, we're going to burn the ships. We're going to stay here. We're going to battle. We're going to conquer. Cole, what would you say is one of the big things that, a new producer typically will kind of, not really jump all in with? And I know leads is a big one. What would you say is another area where we kind of forget about it, or we don't really go all in with it?
I mean, a super common one is, and I get it, I understand it, is I'm going to keep working my 9 to 5 or whatever job I have until I make enough money to get on leads and quit my job. But the reality is that's 1 out of 100 people that ever actually quit their job and get on leads. And, not to beat a dead horse here, but that's just, it just doesn't typically work. No, we have one guy in our company I know of that has done that. And he just quit his job actually to get on full-time leads. I mean, he was working super hard at his job, and then he'd go and he worked till 8, 9 o'clock at night. It's very rare for an individual to be able to do that, where they're putting in an extra 20 hours a week on top of their 40-hour a week day job, and they're having to change gears, and there's all of the emotional energy spent of trying to figure out how to switch from, okay, I'm at my 9 to 5 and now I'm transitioning to selling insurance and building my business. It's a rare breed that's able to do that. And that's your 1% of the 1% that can do that. I think an easier solution is save your freaking money and just get into this business and go all in. I mean, it's so cliche, but man, if you can do that, I mean, there's just, the sky's the limit, because now you have a little bit of room to fail. You're not constantly going into Miss Jones' house with commission breath. You're not sitting here with this cruddy desperation that just, what do they say? Desperation is a stinky cologne.
Yeah, absolutely.
Red from that 70s show, I think, said that. But it's just, man, like you can do this the right way, and you can plug into something that's going to encourage you to do it the right way. And honestly, if you feel like you still need to work a job to make ends meet, and you're not that 1% of the 1%, so most of you probably listening, save your money and don't get into the business until you're ready. I would rather you wait than come in prematurely and fail. And that's my message. I just hate seeing people that are just desperate and to make it work, and they want to work for themselves, and they can't stand their job. But it's like you can't do your job well or your business well if you're kind of in that place of limbo trying to sort it all out. So that's kind of my soapbox right now, Chase. I think people can make it work, but it is so difficult.
Well, and it's easy to talk about it, and I've heard you say this before. It's easy to talk about it, but how many times have we sat there, and I've kind of been licking my chops. I love when Bowman goes into money management. I can sit and listen to that all day long because obviously he's got the draw. He is that straightforward, plow through kind of approach with it, but it's such a great topic that he absolutely annihilates and does a great job with. When we talk about money management and talking about, you use the word entrepreneur. I know a lot of people that love to use that word, but they don't even sniff actually being an entrepreneur. And so, they love talking about, I'm an entrepreneur, and they can post really cool memes online, inspirational quotes on LinkedIn. We see it all the time. But then at the end of the day, behind the scenes, just broken. They don't put their money away. They don't save.
What are you going to do if you have to pay everybody else before you can pay yourself? That's what an entrepreneur is.
Exactly. And so listening to the training that we've got in place, that it's not just about how to door knock, how to set appointments, how to have a clean presentation. Yeah, we've got that. But the money management side of it is so big. I'm a big fan of it. We've got some of that up on the YouTube channel as well, and in iTunes and the podcast that you can revert back to and listen to. But that's a big topic, and it's a big one for you to touch on. And I'm glad you did, because you can get going. I'll say his name. I'm going to say it now. There are so many success stories within our organization. I love talking about it. And there's success stories all across the industry. We have one that it really touches my heart, and I love the guy as I've gotten to know him. He's a wild man. He actually got the Loose Cannon Award at the last event in Vegas. But John Sadlowski's an absolute monster in the business now, and his story. We'll have to have John on with you and I to kind of have a conversation with him and just kind of have a casual conversation. He did a great job on one of the In the Trenches calls that we did before. He was a little nervous, but John's story is one that kind of covers exactly what we've talked about. John said, "I believe in you, Josh." His upline, his manager, "I believe in you. I'm all in. Let's go." And he said last night, this has been an absolute freaking game changer for me. I have money in the bank like I've never thought was possible. You hear it talked about. And I'm doing better now in a life. He kept using the word life. Like, my life is better than it ever has been. That's what it's all about right there. And it's real. It's tangible. You can touch it. You can feel it. And John is a prime example of a guy. I think I know who we're going to have on next week. I'm going to have to hit John up. You and I are going to have to get him on to talk to him. But it's
Johnny boy, if you're listening, you're on next week, brother.
It's going to be a good one. But he's a prime example of a guy that said, "Look, I believe in what you're saying. Let's go. Let's get it." And he walks it, and every single day he's going to get it. So I was fired up about that, kind of hearing the topic that we were going to touch on today and just kind of riff a little bit. But I'm going to try and rope you in quite a bit more moving forward. I know that you got the Medicare Madness call, that podcast that you guys have been doing. That's awesome. We've got that up on YouTube and iTunes as well. We're going to try and rope you in quite a bit more on this particular podcast with me, and then I think next week we may have Holden with us. So we may have Triple H on there with us to rock and roll as well.
I love it, man. I love it. I think we're going to have a good time, and I might not always say what you want to hear, but I hope you understand my heart for y'all is to say what's probably best for you. And I couldn't live with myself if I wasn't willing to be honest. So that's kind of where I'm coming from this whole deal, Chase. I think we're going to have a good time too, man. We'll get some characters on here. We'll make fun of Holden a lot. It'll be a good time.
It's going to be a blast. I look forward to it.
I'm just kidding, Holden. I love you, buddy.
Yeah, we're definitely going to make fun of Holden a little bit. But for all of you out there in podcast land, if you have questions, if you want to take us up on the opportunity to talk to us a little bit about the opportunity, just let us know. 800-765-0711. Call that number. One of the team members will pick up, whether it's Ben, Jeremy, myself, Ryan Karras here. There's a team of people to help out any way we can. And regardless of where you're located in the United States, if you're wanting to maybe get in there and see how it's done, you want to work with somebody who's a little bit local, that's okay too. We've got the best in the business all around the U.S. and they are willing to get you in the car with them. But just communicate with us. Let us know if the opportunity is something you'd like to learn about. And Cole, once again, buddy, I appreciate you, and we'll do this all over again next week.
Yeah, brother. Have a good weekend.